Tikina atu a te pūtaki o ngā kōrero. E rongi e te rangi Māori ai. Kia nākau te tikaha, kia mau tonu ki te honga no tangata. Ka whakamaua ki a tīna, haumi e, hui e, taranaki whānui, te Aotearoa, Ngāti Toa hoki, tēnā koutou. He Vision for Wellington, tēnei, he mihi atu nei. E te whānau o ngā toi, kia ora koutou. Tēnei hui o te mana o ngā toi o te whanganui Aotearoa. I raro i te kaupapa o Vision for Wellington, he kaupapa i whakaora ngā mana, ngā toi o te whanganui Aotearoa. Nō reira i te whānau kia kaha, kia manawa nui. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou te atua. Kia ora, I'm Simon Bowden, the facilitator for this evening. I came to Wellington in 1993 to study music at the Conservatorium of Music. And when I was graduating, one of my lecturers said, "They don't book us, they don't care about us." And I thought, who's this they? Maybe I could be they. So friends and I started the Wellington International Jazz Festival, still run today by Tawhiri. Thank you, Tawhiri. And from there I went to run Arts Foundation of New Zealand, Tutu Moi, and a highlight during that time was to create the crowdfunding website Boosted, which has just about to raise $14.5 million, thanks to the people that are involved in that. And if Chris and Kathy Parker are here tonight, a substantial contribution from them that helped it going. Spent some time at Manatū Taonga in the COVID recovery team as a principal advisor. I now work at Forsyth Bar, giving strategic support to our charity clients and helping our wealth clients navigate philanthropy. Okay, we're here to contribute ideas towards a vision for Wellington. Tonight we are focused on the creativity sector. Shortly I'll introduce three panellists. We'll explore their work with a focus on sustaining careers in Wellington. We'll then be challenged by 5 early career practitioners to come up with ideas about how we can have a thriving creative sector in Wellington. Some of you will get a chance to share those ideas in this room, and everyone will have a chance to add their ideas to the boards in the foyer after the show. And Vision for Wellington will collate these ideas and add them to their strategy. And you can see the wonderful Gareth and Lisa over here will be live illustrating. They'll be in the zone. They've told me to say, please go and draw on those boards if you want to, at any time. Okay, let's meet tonight's panel. I'll read out who they are and then I'll invite them all to the stage together. I should say we are recording tonight and I believe it is also being live broadcast on Stuff. We have Ariki Whakataka Brightwell, rongo whakata raukaua Ngāti Toa Aotearoa. Ariki is an Indigenous artist of Māori, Tahitian and Rarotongan descent. She is a 27th generation Indigenous artist with the same passion for creativity, history and storytelling as her father and her ancestors before her. She has a sense of duty to pass on the legacy of art and te ao Māori. Ariki's goal is to share our culture and its beauty with our people and with the world. We also have Carla Russell, Ngāti Raukawa, Ngāti Mutana o Whare Cody, a finalist for Wellingtonian of the Year and a Kiwi Bank Local Hero Award recipient. Carla has been the Executive Director of the New Zealand Art Show since its inception, winning in its category at the 2023 Wellington Gold Awards. The New Zealand Art Show pioneered the arts market scene in Aotearoa. Carla has grown the New Zealand Art Show into New Zealand's largest art event dedicated to showcasing and supporting local artists. She also sits on the organising committee of Women of Porniki. We also have tonight Richard Taylor, who is the co-founder and creative lead of Weta Workshop, which he runs with his wife, Tanya Roger. Weta Workshop is a multi-award-winning concept design studio and manufacturing facility that services the world's entertainment and creative industries. This diverse and innovative-driven company also includes 2 tourism offerings and retail experiences, consumer products, game studio, and creates public sculptures and private commissions. Richard focuses much of his time on the immersive experiences they create, such as the award-winning Gallipoli, The Scale of War, Weta Workshop Unleashed, and Aurora Forest at the Edge of the Sky. Please welcome our 3 panellists tonight. Okay, let's see who we have in the audience tonight. Put your hand up if you're an artist. Kia ora, welcome. Keep your hand up if you need a second job to supplement your arts income. Okay. Hands up if you're one of those super people keeping arts organisations going. You work in arts admin. Go, kia ora, welcome. Any arts teachers? Mate, kia ora. What about working in the wider creative industries such as architecture, gaming? We have people from there tonight. Who went to Cuba Duper? Yes! Wasn't it wonderful? That chance to be together as Wellingtonians. Okay, no matter where you come from tonight, your ideas are all welcome. Okay, let's get into it. Please welcome Ariki for our first panel presentation. Yeah.
Tēnā tātou katoa, tukua te mihi kia koutou nei, te whare tuanei, toi whakaari, tukua te mihi i ngā iwi nei, te Aotearoa Taranaki whānui, mihi nui kia koutou katoa, ia pōneke te whanganui ātara, ko Taupuruariki, Whakataka Brightwell, toku ingoa, he mahi toi ringa ahau. Kia ora everyone, big thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for having myself and our colleagues on the show today. Thank you, Simon, for having us, and thank you all. Takes me a few breaths to take in what's happening right now. I'll start off with a quick little karakia to ease the space, and then I shall begin with my kōrero to show you the artworks I've been involved with. And also just expressing how important it is and how significant, Wellington has been to myself personally, but also to the arts in Aotearoa New Zealand. So without further ado, i noi tātou, whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, ia mā taratara ki tai, e he ake ana te ātākura, he teo, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei, mauri ora. Ai. So yes, I go by Ariki Arts as my other handle. In short, I'm a muralist, I'm a sculptor, I'm also a storyteller. I work in all sorts of fields, from the musical side, more in audio engineering. However, I want to focus on the visual side, my art form side. Inherited from my family, my whakapapa, because as Māori as well, our art, the central po to our art is whakapapa and our lineage. And that's a story our art form tells. And that's a story I wish to share with our people of Aotearoa New Zealand. And we're proud of our heritage to pass down from generations, from my father to myself and to the next, and so on, as commands the rights of mahi toi. Ka pai. So I'm going to do a little signal for the person that is doing the, slideshows. So, moving on. Yeah, I just told you who I am, right? So, quick little overview. I came to Wellington like 15 years ago, studied at Victoria, found that wasn't quite the creativity I was looking for, so then transferred to Massey, and then graduated there, pretty much in animation, illustration. But then I left and decided, I want to go back to my roots, and that's when I started to go back to my family and embrace my upbringing and where I come from. So the next slide I'll have to show. Little brief overview of my whānau. So as Simon mentioned, I'm a 27th generation artist for my family, and that's unbroken line all the way to our first ancestors who arrived here on our waka. I come from a waka family, waka carvers, navigators, sailors on both my mother and father's side. And I'd like to share a little timeline of my family history in the modern era from my grandfather, Francis Cowan, who sailed to Chile in 1956 on a bamboo rafi build to basically tell the Kontiki you can sail the other way. Right. So that's him on the left, and also on our national stamp in Tahiti. Fast forward in time, him and my father meet together and collaborate to build the first double hull canoe that sailed from Tahiti to New Zealand. It was first built here, shipped over there, and that's where my parents met, through art. My father met my mother, and during the carving of this waka, Hawaii canoe, which made landfall in Mission Bay in 85, planted the seed of waka, and also was a huge significant event for arts, culture and heritage for all of New Zealand. Further on, Nuku Tai Memeha, 1989, so that's when I was born and that's what I grew up with. So that canoe there was if you might have heard, there was a giant canoe that sat in the East Coast for a very long time. That was carved by my father and my family. I grew up with that canoe being carved, so my whole upbringing, I grew up around art and creativity from our heritage as well. And also, there was all the pop culture influence of the 90s, cartoons, comic books, movies. Love that stuff. So my art form is a combination of contemporary, mahi toi, and so on, which I'm going to fly through now. So, with introductions aside, one last thing. So that's my father's work, his most iconic work, Ngā Taupuruariki, which he did before going to Tahiti. So that's just a little background on my whānau's artistic history. All right, next one. All right, you might have seen this mural in town. It's up near the Beehive. Yeah, it was done for the Cycle Lanes project. However, this mural here is called Kaiota. So in short, because like I said, time's very short, so I want to keep this brief. This mural is about the gardening plantation grounds there that our iwi have used in the past in that area. But it's also about eating together, breaking bread over the table, and communicating, which relates to our leadership at Parliament. All right? Next one. In the sculpting realm, this is one of our great taniwha tū More, who lives on the east coast and inhabits the area of Ahuriri Napier. Some say is the son of Pani of the Reef, all the way down to Waimata River to Gisborne. This sculpture was featured in Gisborne, however, it was built here in Te Whanganui-a-Tara, Wellington, and an art studio used to inhabit in Happy Valley. So the next slide shows a little bit of that progress. 4 weeks, 28 sheets of plywood later with some Ryobi power tools on my own during COVID too. Yeah, but love art so much, you know. So somehow managed to create it. The last 3 days at festival before Jacinda came to have a look, me and my mum and dad were in the car park finished painting it. Life of an artist, eh? Shipped from Wellington. But yeah, all my art started and began Wellington in terms of as an artist. Right, next one. Kapai. It's the mural in Happy Valley, and Creative New Zealand. Tells the story of Kupe. And as you know, Kupe has quite a big role to play here. So like I said, my artworks, my public artworks have to do with the story and histories of the area from the Te Ao Māori and also Polynesian perspective. All right, next one, please. Bit of progress. Me and my father, he's carving, painting mural, and we installed the kōrero headpiece of the sea, God of the Sea, on the building. For those who don't know too, the God of the Sea, Tangaroa, is also the God of art. So because we believe art came from the ocean and from the sea, which is quite relatable to everyone, how cultures move from one place to another. Right. The Wellington Airport. That was done during the Women's FIFA World Cup. So yeah, this one features our great taniwha of the harbour. So when people come into Wellington, to our airport, they get a first view of our great guardians of the area. Right, next one. This one here, rewinding the clock. So I spent a lot of my time with the local iwi, Te Aotearoa Taranaki Whānui, working as a tour guide at Te Whare Waka o Pōneke, and there I learned a lot of the mātauranga from our iwi here. And that's really where the journey began for me as a Toi Māori artist in Te Whanganui-a-Tara. This here depicts the key past sites of the area, which is for an education program that iwi is using for our local schools. But you've got Te Aropa, Kumutoto, and Pipitea Fondin, and that's in the digital aspect of art. And yep, next one. Oh yeah, there we go. I could talk all day. It's actually quite hard to compress everything. But I hope you just got a bit of an insight of the work I do and the legacy I love to share with our people and the people of Aotearoa New Zealand. So thank you for that. Very brief, but yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for listening. Kia ora.
Louis, thank you very much for taking us through that wonderful work. I've got a quick question for you before we move on to Carla. So with people embracing Te Ao Māori and iwi being engaged in civic life, development and decisions, has this led to more work for Ringatoi Māori? And do you see increasing pathways for Ringatoi Māori to have sustainable careers because of that?
Absolutely. So, Toi Māori is tied and definite with our culture and heritage of our country. And so it'll always be present, it'll always be thriving. The other thing too about Toi Māori art, it has two very strong points as well. Also, because it tells our history, it's also political in a way because it also tells the history of our people, the stories that happen, leadership, events that transpire, and that transfers into the modern day of things, but more through activism and then through traditional means of retaining our knowledge and our history. So that is the nature of Indigenous art and Māori art as a whole, especially today. And so those two are very strong, no matter what the environment is and how that goes. So there will always be a pathway for Toi Māori artists and those who wish to learn. It's just a matter of finding the place to take in that knowledge, and the support to do so is the most important.
Kia ora. So if you could do one thing in Te Whanganui Atara Wellington to really amplify opportunities for Ringatoi Māori, for Māori arts, for us to experience it, for practitioners to grow, what would it be?
Yes. There's no simple answer to this, but me personally, I think it's, supporting those who are willing to go back to the words of the old people, to find the knowledge that is recorded, that is waiting to be pulled back to the surface. And by learning the words of the old people and having a place where we can all gather and bring in that knowledge, we can support our creatives and feed them with more mātauranga knowledge to help basically evolve and develop their work and their art and their place within society.
Why Wellington?
Well, it is the creative capital of Aotearoa.
But do we have anything unique here?
Yes, well, speaking on the art front, our National Archives is here, our Film Archives is here. This is the great starting point to find knowledge, because this is where a lot of our country's history has been stored through our National Museum and, like I said, through our archives. And so I always thought that scholars and academics need more support, and so they could spend more time researching and bringing a lot of the old words and a lot of the history to the surface, because I think that is a pathway to continue to progress forward, especially as a people and as an art form.
Oh, kia ora. So a National Research Centre, a place for scholars and practitioners to work together. Sounds pretty good to me. One for the board. Kia ora, please, thank Ariki. Carla, you're up. You're up. Please welcome Carla.
I'll play the video.
It's been so good to me. Yeah, it's been so kind. That's what I like. But it's been so good to me. Yeah, it's been so kind. That's what I like. Hey, yeah. Come on, let's roll. Hey, yeah. Come on, let's roll.
Kia ora everyone, I'm Carla Russell and I'm the Executive Director of the New Zealand Art Show. I've been organising the New Zealand Art Show, which will be our 22nd year this year in Wellington. We've always been at the TSB Bank Arena and we're there again this year, expanding into Shed 6. I love art and I love Wellington, and actually it's always been at the core of who I am. I've had this job for 22 years. It's our challenge to keep innovating and to be a leader in our field. So we pioneered the art market scene in New Zealand and we're really proud of that. And we're very committed to Wellington and Wellington only. We are a charitable trust, but in saying that, we run on a business model. We're self-sustaining, we don't rely on any public funding, so we put a lot of effort into networking and connecting with the private sector. Without the private sector, we would not be the success we are today. So over the last 20 years, we've supported more than 3,500 New Zealand artists. We've sold more than 30,000 artworks. We have facilitated more than $200,000 in art awards, and we've welcomed more than 150,000 unique visitors to the New Zealand Art Show. We now know that 1 in 5 people who visit the art show will purchase art, and that is a really great thing for us, so it's actually numbers that we need through the door. What I love about the art show, and I think it could really only happen in Wellington, is we welcome 250 artists under one roof for 4 days at the show. There is such a great vibe in there, and it was actually similar to the vibe I felt with all the dancers here to welcome us in. You can feel their creative energy, but what I love more about that, which is outside of the show, is the connections and the collaborations that happen after the show. So when we've got 250 artists connecting, making friends, often they work in isolation, but here they come together. So we've had collaborations that have gone on to be quite a global influence, which is great. And we've had hundreds of artists now become full-time practitioners as a direct result from the New Zealand Art Show. We're very proud of that. So Wellington, I'm governed by a great board of volunteers. They're all very committed Wellingtonians. They're really passionate about seeing Wellington thrive, and they made a commitment to Wellington, and so we are here and we are here to stay. So over the last 20 years, we've seen a lot of highs and lows. Wellington's changed, the economic environment, but when there's been a lot of noise and a lot of distractions in our way, we've always come back to our core values of who we are. We're about inclusivity, accessibility and community, and that really grounds us and keeps us really intentional in how we're focused. And if any of you are thinking of putting on events, or you do put on events, it's a lot of hard work. It's really expensive. It takes a lot of passion, and you need to draw in a lot of people, and you need to get a lot of people behind you. But I hope that if any of you are taking the leap of faith of putting on an event, and if I can just offer you a little bit of inspiration here, we do all of the New Zealand Art Show, all of the sponsorship, organise all the artists and everything, and we're a team of 3. One full-time, which is myself, and 2 part-timers. And we do it all. So we're very efficient, but we're very intentional in what we do. Well, I guess that's what I've really got to say. I think I feel really privileged of being here today. Outside of the New Zealand Art Show, I'm involved in some other things, but what I'm always really interested in is how can we connect the dots between where that creative spark happens to the concept and then shining a spotlight on the finished product. So how can we do that? How can we help you as individuals and as a community like here tonight, and then as Wellington as a city? So, thank you.
Ngā mihi Carla. No funding, completely on your own. How did you get the strength, the energy to start that? That sounds scary to me.
Well, it's actually a lot more scarier filling out funding applications and never knowing if they're going to be successful or not. We really knew that we needed to have the support from the community, and there are a number of ways to do that. And the people that own businesses, in Lambton Key, Wellington. We knew that we needed them. Well, all of our sponsors, they're genuinely interested in supporting the arts. They are very generous, and they are our collectors. They're the ones that buy it. So we've got to be very clear with our messaging that we need to be inclusive of someone that lives up Cuba Street and then someone that lives in Kandala, that we want to be welcoming and inclusive to everyone, and that was the way to do it. And then the money came.
Yeah, so you built a community of people who could be participators, investors, sponsors, supporters. And how about the arts community? Was that important in creating the event too?
Well, definitely the artists, yeah. So without the artists, we don't have anything. There are lots of artists to support, and we are just one avenue to support visual artists, and we hope that we aim to be a leader in our field, and I think that we are. So artists in the New Zealand Art Show come across from all over the motu, come here to Wellington. They stay for 7 days, and there's 250 of them. So without them, they're actually investing in Wellington, into our economy, into the restaurants, and they're actually buying each other's art. So yeah, the artists are what make it hum.
And what have you got any stories of impact on artists? Have artists been able to say, for example, sustain careers partly through the support from the New Zealand Art Show?
Yeah, so as I said before, we've had almost 800 and I don't know how many artists are now full-time practitioners, with the New Zealand Art Show being at the core or the start of that journey. So we're really proud of that you can actually being an artist, like Ariki said, it can be sustainable, but you just have to do it. Yeah.
Kia ora. Okay, same question for you as Ariki. If there was something you could do tomorrow, something that would amplify the possibility of events being created and sustained in Whanganui Aotearoa, what would you do?
Well, this is what I would really love for Wellington to see is I think that we need a inspirational central arts centre and arts incubator that brings everyone together and everyone in the room. So that's where the ideas can spark and then new events can be made and bringing people together. That's what I'd like to see.
Nāko for Wellington. Kia ora, Carla. Carla.
Kia ora and hello everyone. I'm Richard Taylor from Weta Workshop. My wife and I, with our colleague Martin, also run Pukeko Pictures. I've been in Wellington for over half of my life. I'm a great fan of Wellington. I'm actually an immigrant to New Zealand from northern England, came over when I was 4, and my mum and dad moved us into a share milker's cottage in Te Hihi. And it was during living there that I had the good fortune of meeting my lovely wife, Tanya. It was actually at about the age of 14 or 15, I can't quite remember. Tanya used to come up and help us haymake every year, and she came up from the East Coast. And we were actually sitting on a hay bale when we made the decision together that we would commit our lives to the creative arts. We didn't know what that would be at the time. I assumed it would be in the theatre. I had become extremely passionate about doing theatre design at school, at Wesley College, because it was a boys' boarding school. I was the only boy willing to play all the female roles, and I looked damn sexy in a pair of fishnets, but it was during that conversation. We moved to Wellington when we were 17. I got into Wellington Polytech. I originally actually didn't get in because I failed with my portfolio, but luckily the 36th person dropped out. I was supposed to do industrial design. That's what I wanted to do, but I got into the end of the wrong queue, and I ended up doing 3 years of visual communication and design. I'd managed to keep this a secret until I was very fortunate to become inducted into the Hall of Fame at Massey, and when I was being given my award, the head of school recalled this story for everyone. Oh, dear me. It was just nerves and embarrassment that... but anyway, we started our careers in a very humble way. I started doing sculptures in margarine for a hotel, the Taz Hotel at the top of Willis Street. What a rocking place that was in the 80s. Some of you were probably kicked out of it. Joe Bleakley, right? And we had a good time, and Tanya used to invite me in, and the chef was doing swans and ponies and other stuff like that, and I took a bit of a turn of events with that and started creating monsters and dragons and creators. So what I thought I'd do in my talk today is I'd start with, thanks Cam, I brought along, it's not actually margarine, it's called emulsified vegetable pastry fat. How's that for sexy? And we started sculpting margarine, and the first 150, maybe 200 sculptures that we did in the film industry were done in margarine. And it was an incredibly versatile material, but that's because we didn't know anything else. But what I also thought I'd show you today is from margarine, how 37 years later we have started working in robotics. And we've got lots of things going on at the workshop every year. We've got 7 different business units that our colleague Dave Wilkes, who I think is in the audience, our co-CEO, Tanya and I and Dave run a very unusual business setup where we run our CEO practice between the 3 of us, which we find works incredibly well. And of course, all of our senior leadership team who run the workshop with us, and then our creative leadership team who look after everything that we do in the world creatively. So I thought I'd just introduce you. This is my dear friend and colleague Jess, and maybe Amelia, a friend and colleague from work, will pop her head around the wall. So Amelia is our code writer, and for the last 4 years she has been developing the code totally bespoke for our robots. And this is Wetabot 005, and we'll pull the veil off of this chap, and maybe Amelia will see if we can actually get it working for you. And Damien, would you mind playing the video as well? So this is the accumulation of a lifelong ambition of visiting Disneyland when I was 10 and seeing the robots, the animatronics, and thinking that maybe one day in the future we could build this as well. And I have been so inspired by the people that work with me in the creative sectors of our workshop that today I feel that anything is possible. And our team from margarine to robotics has a linking tissue, and I would argue that that is the city in which we live in. The ability to attract people to the city of the calibre such as that Amelia possesses means that we can create something like this. This has only been alive for the last 3 weeks. Our animator Glenn, I'll get on with it. He's super impatient, eh? He's actually going to decide to steal the show. Yes, I know you are. All right, get on with it. Jeez, what a cheeky bugger. And that has allowed Tanya and I the confidence to tackle things that we could never have imagined. We now have 400 people working with us across those 7 different business centres, all of them developing creativity within the workshop. The thing that I love to make today is other makers, and I really want to see us inspire kids to get off their iPads for a moment, get off their screens, and realise these 10 incredible things that you were given at the ends of your hands might be really worth kicking in from time to time. So our tourism offerings are entirely based around creativity, most significantly Weta Workshop Unleashed in Auckland, which is a 1-hour journey into a fictitious and fantastical workshop where you get to discover the love of making and creating. One of the things we're most happy, you go back to sleep, that's it. that we're most happy about is we teach tinfoil sculpting, right? Some of you may have seen what we do with this. Why do we teach tinfoil sculpting? Because every house in New Zealand, whatever the socioeconomic level, has tinfoil and they have teaspoons. And with those two things, you can teach extraordinary and create extraordinary things. And one of our greatest moments of success is when we discovered that the supermarkets of Auckland had sold out of tinfoil because kiddies were going home and choosing to start sculpting. So my passion has always been for sculpture, and we have tried to build a career based significantly around that. I think a highlight for Tanya and I is 10 years ago we started building a sculpture park in the Wairarapa. We bring charity groups out in the weekend to try and raise money for the Neonatal Trust, which is the trust that Tanya and I have been patrons of for the last 22 years. And that's a lovely way to introduce kids to art, sculpture, and the discovery of being inquisitive and keeping art at the heart of what they do. So thank you very much. Great pleasure talking to you. The video might just play on for a bit longer, but we'll look forward to chatting. Okay.
Kia ora, Richard. What would you have done if you hadn't have decided on the hay bale to be creative?
Well, what I would have done if I hadn't met Tanya, right? Like so much of what we do in our lives is catalysed by a relationship with someone else or a group of people. And when I've come and talked at Massey or Victoria, I've tried to stress the point that individual pursuit, right, is a fantastic thing. You're an incredible example of that. But you speak to the fact that through the collaboration with your colleagues, right? And very few things can be created at scale as an individual. But if you can find a collaborator, someone that's willing to work alongside you, it should never be in your shadow or yours and theirs, right? I could argue that anything is possible. And we're only as good as the crew that's gathered around us. And, as we promote Wellington, that crew is here because they've either chosen to stay living here or have been brought here by the thrill of the job, but stayed because of the thrill of the city. And, I was talking to my friend and colleague Jess, and she made the comment that in some ways Wellington is self-regulating, right? Those that aren't meant to be here sort of move on because the wind blows them out of there. But us Wellingtonians, right, like the slightly shaky foundations of the city and the brooding hills and the whipped-up wind, and that keeps us invigorated and passionate about this place we call home. So, yeah.
So does the Wellington breed collaborators?
Absolutely, I believe it does. You only have to see almost every creative endeavour in the city has come about through friends. And to finish off, what I say to students at the two universities is just look at the people next to you. They're not your competition. They could be your collaborators. Together, 1 + 1 could equal 10. And so look for your friends at Polytech and university and think about how they may empower both of you to become more successful than you might be alone. Yeah.
So this wonderful, rich space that you occupy with collaborators, amazing creative minds, is also a business story, isn't there? So how did you find the energy to be able to do both well?
Well, I applied to ILAM and ELAM, right? I didn't get into either. Just wasn't skilled enough, good enough. But I thank my lucky stars today that I didn't. That doesn't mean that I don't applaud every fine artist that is able to look inside themselves for inspiration, hang it in the darkened galleries of the world, and it illuminates under the spotlight, and people collect that art. And Carla is, living and promoting that dream. But I realised early up that I was motivated to look to other people's aspirations and become a service provider in the creative industries. That doesn't mean that you don't have an incredible license to invest and promote your own inspiration into the art. As Joe can contest to, Joe and I worked together a lot in our early careers. At best, you might get a script. At the least, which is sometimes the nicest place to be, you literally get a napkin. We have literally received napkins of discussions that have happened over a beer at night in a pub, right? And that has inspired a creative journey, sometimes that may last years. And the reality I realised, Tanya and I realised early up, is that we had to turn that into a commercial endeavour, or we'll be washed out very, very quickly. And it's very, very challenging, of course, as anyone in the room can contest to, trying to serve the creative arts and celebrate in the individualism and the collaborative spirit of the creative while trying to find a profitable model. And it isn't a dirty word, because without it, you can't do it the next year and the next year and the next year, because you're trying to propagate a continual stream of work for everyone. The head of our board, Cam, was there with us, Cam Harland, who's been part of the organisation. We all met down at the Wellington Golf Club to get out of the workshop for our very first board meeting, and George Higton challenged us to write one word on the board, which was the most important thing to us. And I got up and I wrote the word certainty, right? Because certainty in the arts is a phenomenally challenging thing, phenomenally challenging. And it requires phenomenal resilience and passion, enthusiasm, tenacity, just sheer grit. And thankfully, the people that have gathered around us have that in spades.
So that's the essential ingredient, is it? Tenacity, grit,
challenge.
Passion.
When I list the most important elements for a young person to come and work with us, because people turn up with extraordinary portfolios sometimes, but it is passion, what's in your heart, enthusiasm, the ability to turn passion into an action. We all meet people that are so passionate, but then they can't quite activate it into an action. Tenacity being the third, stickability, and then talent. You could go, that's crazy, like surely talent has to be flip it on its head and then think about bringing someone in. We're not there to drag someone kicking and screaming through their lack of enthusiasm, right? You have to be passionate about it, or move over and let someone else take that spot.
Kia ora. Thanks, Richard. I want to take it up a bit to a thinking about the whole of Aotearoa, and I was reading a Boston Consulting Group paper on Aotearoa New Zealand, and they'd done some analysis, and they picked 5 industries that they thought New Zealand had a uniqueness in that could not be replicated anywhere else in the world. And the study was projected to 2050, and it was basically saying if the country specialises in these things, then it will be a global success. It was quite focused on economics. Agriculture 4.0, space and satellites, green tech, future of medicine, and creative industries. It said film and creative industries, our culture, unique in the world. This is the thing that Aotearoa New Zealand should focus on to be a global competitor. I wonder if you think they're right.
Yeah, I'm sort of not worth my bacon sitting up here if I didn't. There's that old adage that all of you, I'm sure, have heard, which is the earth without art is just right? Well, New Zealand without art is just ultimately, because it's the lifeblood that flows through the people of this country. The Indigenous people of New Zealand exist because of their creative well-being, their spiritual well-being that's come from creativity. I've long held the opinion, or the thought, not an opinion, the thought, that craftsmanship are the road markers that designate your journey through your own specific culture. Our Māori culture is a perfect example of that. Name me any other thing, right? Is it politics? Is it sports? Is it religion? These are things that tend to be shifting and generation to generation. But artifact, created through craftsmanship, remains as the markers through time. And therefore, those that are providing that craftsmanship, those totems into the world, I've always said to our crew, we may be hired to make props, but when we've finished, we've made artifacts. Why shouldn't it be considered still a group of artisans making an object? But in answer to your question, so we have agricultural tourism, we have cultural tourism, we have environmental tourism, we even have film tourism. Isn't it about time that New Zealand begins to have creative tourism, right? When do we all get behind, when do we get our governments behind the idea of creative tourism? So that New Zealand as a whole becomes an experience economy based around creative tourism, a component of our tourism dollar is flowing. Imagine a day when every rural community, every small town, every big city has a significant component of their population focused on creative tourism. And it starts to commercialise for every creative in New Zealand the prospect of benefiting from those that flow into our country. To me, that would be a very exciting future and one that we could potentially achieve by 2050. And, as small as our endeavours are, our windows into workshop in Wellington, our Unleashed in Auckland, we're still getting 100,000 people through that otherwise wouldn't appreciate the creative endeavour of those within our workshop if they didn't have the chance to rub up against what these people do. And people exactly like Amelia and the team that have built this robot here. And to me, considering the extraordinary diversity of creative offerings in our country, that could be an immensely powerful thing to offer as a country going forward.
Kia ora. And also audiences for our work on the other side of the world?
Yeah, well, our inspiration started in margarine, and our aspiration was global connection. Only about 10% of our work comes from New Zealand clients. That's not a negative thing. If we were 10% of the size we are and had 40 people working with us, we could survive off New Zealand business opportunities. But we've endeavoured to provide as many creatives as possible the opportunity to work within the halls of Weta Workshop. And so that's required us to take our story out to the world. And whether we're working on location-based experiences in the Middle East or China, or we are doing immersive experiences in other parts of the world, our collectibles, we sell sculptural collectibles to collectors all over the world. I love the fact that people have New Zealand sculptors' art on their mantelpieces in almost every corner of the world. That's a fun thing to think about, right? And so, I'd say to any student, think about staying in Wellington. It's arguably the most dynamic, easy to manage city in the world that you could choose to live in, with the greatest amount of support from the creative community. But always know that you've got to reach beyond our borders if you really want to find opportunities that allow you to indelibly stamp your mark on the world stage. We've realised very early up that we've got to always take ourselves to the client, right? And Pre-COVID, I was doing 100 flights a year. I would fly to the UK, to the Middle East, to China for a day if required. Because never should it be that the tyranny of distance should in any way lessen our ability to be relevant on the world stage. And I think that's an important lesson for those that want to try and reach out and make a mark internationally.
Great, thank you, Richard. So, the same question. If you could do something tomorrow that you think might be game-changing for scaling the industry, what would you do?
Since we talked in the green room, when we were singing the Wombles soundtrack.
We were, yeah. Showing our age.
Yeah, it was launched by Ariki, relating her love of Number 5 from Short Circuit. Some of you probably won't know what the hell we're talking about, but that kicked into a Wombles song.
It's all creativity in the green room.
So I thought of one thing that is important to me, but I'll start with another I thought of, right? It's a reality, possibly for good, some could argue less so, that Wellington will never attract 5,000 strong commercial large corporate companies, as we may have seen in the 80s, right? But there's no reason why we can't attract 1,000 5-person creative startups. And imagine if we could. Because for every employee, every creative that wants to do something and do something in collaboration, you need someone to be paying the wages, right? So you need someone, the entrepreneur, that's going to kick off this opportunity. So after you asked me that question, I thought of two things. But the first is the necessity, arguably, for us as a city to try and take the extraordinary events that we do, like Dupa Cuba, and expand it into at a level that gets international presence. So it starts to attract people down to our city because they become aware of it on the internet. What's a good example? Maybe the Carnival in Brazil, right? Would be a great example of the most extraordinary scale of that. So that would be one thing. The second thing is an international airport for us, right? That would help us. In some ways, it's a double-edged sword because I love the fact that we escape the rat race of connectivity, and I have no problem flying to Auckland to then fly out to the world. But it is a reality that we rub up against quite a bit, where our clients think we must be a small provincial town because they've got to make the domestic hop down to our airport. And if we could only expand our airport a wee bit more to get international flights in, I think that would make quite a difference psychologically for our city.
Kia ora. Thank you, Richard. Okay, kia ora koutou. So now we're going to shift the focus. This is where you get to be part of the story tonight. We're going to move into that phase now. And to get us there, I want to invite a very special person up to run a little exercise that we can all do together. Rachel Brown is a multidisciplinary artist, a dancer and a musician who says she is determined to defend that the torrent of talent flows through our little city. For the next few minutes, she will guide us through a visualisation exercise in collective world building. Rachel.
Can't believe I have to follow a robot. So if you're comfortable, I would like you all to close your eyes or find a calm space. And I'd like you to think of the word creative. Does it come to you as a word? Is it a word in English, or are you given a word that has more meaning and resonance with your lived experience? Is it a feeling? Is it a colour? Do you see something? Or does the sensory experience come to you as a sound or a sensation? I want you to follow that word or whatever that thing is, into your memories? What practices come to your attention when you think of creativity? Where are you when you're in the flow of these practices? Are you at a certain place or with certain people? Who are these places? Who are these people to you? Now turn your attention to the whenua beneath your feet, the place we're gathered. Have some of these moments taken place in Te Whanganui-a-Tara, in our little city? As you embark on your day, where do you recognise these creative moments and connections? Are they primarily in the presence of others or in response to them? Are these moments pulled into your consciousness by images you see in passing, or grocery shopping, or while on the bus to work, for example? Or is creativity activated within you by environmental prompts? Birdsong in the evening as you walk along the waterfront, or the humming of wind through a doorframe that catches your attention? What feeds and expands creativity as it has been shown to you? I want you to think about all the people who appeared to you on this little mental exercise. What is needed for you to access these experiences? And what reflections might these individuals have on the same question? Is it time you need? Resources? Knowledge? Collaboration? Spaces that feel safe enough for you to begin? Or are these things within your capacity to offer others? Has this already been asked of you? I would like us to begin our conversation on how we access, share, and feed expressions of creativity from this place, a place where we are both in ourselves and connected to others, a place where we are both curious and excited about process, inspiration, and provocation. In this short while, we've gone on little journeys in our own minds. I do hope that by the end of this event, we can share a little bit more about what we saw, where we went, and where we might possibly go together. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Rachel. Ngā mihi. Okay, we're in the zone. We want to hear your ideas. Here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to introduce some early career practitioners who will give us some provocations. We'll also display them on the screen. You'll have 5 minutes to find little groups amongst yourselves and talk to the people around you to come up with some responses. Then I'll take some ideas from the floor, just as many as we have time for, and then I'll ask the panel to respond as well. We're going to do this 3 times. Don't worry if you don't get a chance to speak to the room. Afterwards, we have more of these boards out there, and we have a wonderful group of people who are going to facilitate, actually going to steal your ideas from your conversations and put them on the boards. That's what they're going to do. We'll try and inspire you. Okay, let's get going. Judy Jackson is a passionate up-and-coming filmmaker who has recently graduated from the Australian Film, Television and Radio School, and Amelia Walsh is an emerging film practitioner and a recent graduate of Victoria University. Please welcome.
I live between Wellington and Sydney. I have seen the creative energy here, but it often feels scattered. We've got talent from all walks of life, but not always the support or visibility to connect. Imagine if, instead of chasing projects, we were overwhelmed with opportunities to collaborate with creatives from all communities, identities, and disciplines.
And what if the city leaned fully into its scale, small enough to connect, bold enough to lead? I've started projects here I wouldn't have tried anywhere else, and I don't just want to live here, I want to build something meaningful, inclusive, and enduring here.
So the first provocation I have is, how might we spark a renaissance in Wellington, one that generates such strong demand for collaboration that there's a shortage of artists and makers from all communities.
And how might we shape Wellington into an ideas incubator, not just for Aotearoa, but for the world, rooted in our cultures, our land, and our people?
Kia ora. Kia ora, Tina. Ngā mihi. Okay. This is about momentum. Can Wellington become a magnet for creativity that reflects its full diversity? Infrastructure. What platforms enable collaboration across disciplines, backgrounds, and lived experiences? Mātauranga Māori. What would it look like to create an ideas incubator grounded in te ao Māori and local knowledge? Retention. How do we ensure creators across cultures and abilities can build futures here? That's the challenge. I'm going to start the clock for 5 minutes. Please do talk amongst yourselves. You can answer one or both or of those provocations. Kia ora. Let's see what ideas have bubbled up from our first provocation. Do we have our 2 people with microphones? Yes, we do. Okay, so we've got 2 people with microphones that can find you. Maybe we could have the lights up just a little bit, Tommy. That'd be great. Oh, that's much better. Okay. Is there somebody that would like to respond to the provocations? Hand up. Somebody up there? One waving. Thank you.
First up, no pressure.
No pressure.
I wanted to start with a quick question to Ariki. As an artist, how much of your creativity is admin?
50-50.
50-50.
I hear city councils are good at admin. So our sort of idea was a council-funded admin arts coordinator operating out of a venue that can do workshops and help, and someone who can help artists through the admin, help funding applications, help with the reporting, help with venues, help with people who want to donate to the arts, either in financially or products or services, accommodation, to enable the artists to be creative. And this is a support which, if it was run by a council, particularly with any donations or funding coming in, they have to go back to the artists and the artist community. And this will be a way where the community helps the artist community and draws more artists into Wellington, where they can be creative and they can put their money, their funding back in through the city through accommodation and spending and drinking. I hear you guys like to drink. But it's a way the council can help, and a way the community can help by taking the admin away so you guys can be more creative.
Kia ora. Oh.
Sorry. Doing boring admin stuff, like I'm a creative and I do the creative stuff and my husband does the admin, so I don't have to do admin.
Are you willing to give us your number? Wonderful, thanks very much. You're reminding me of a place in Whangarei called Hihioa, I think it's called. A wonderful collaboration between council and local iwi, I think. And it's a number of buildings that did not have a use anymore by the river. One space has got a gallery. There's a number of practitioners that are doing commission work for civic projects, and they can even take waka out of the river, refurbish and put them back in. One of the things that holds the whole thing together is this administrative group. They do the invoicing for the artists. That's the place to go and connect. That's how you can supercharge practice, by making that connection between the commissioner and the outcome of the work. Maybe one more quick one. Joe. Or
I'm already. I think Wellington already is an ideas incubator. We're the perfect size. We're one place. You keep bumping into each other, and cross-pollination. People with all different, from the arts, from writers to scientists to just because of the perfect size, we are already cross-pollinating, and we're a hothouse. The problem is, if people can't afford to live in the city, that is the issue. And if we can, and that's never going to get easier. The rents aren't going to come down. The wages aren't going to go up. There needs to be a proactive approach on how to look at making it affordable for people going into the at the beginnings of their career. There are other things, but that's the provocation. How do we make Wellington, for people who are young at the beginning, when they're developing stuff up, how do we make it livable? Because if they're not living here, it's a waste of the city.
Okay, kia ora, Joe. Answering a provocation with a provocation. Okay, just because of time, we are going to move on, but please keep that idea and put it onto the board outside. James Ladani is an actor, director and producer who studied his Masters of Arts at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School in the UK. And Katrina Casey is a classical ballet student right here at the New Zealand School of Dance and in her final year of study. Please welcome James and Katrina.
I've seen too many creatives, especially those from underrepresented or marginalised communities, priced out of their own work. Tickets, venues, tools, it all adds up. We shouldn't have to choose between art being valued and it being accessible.
And beyond traditional venues, I've used my creative skills in public service arenas, including National Health Services, sexual violence prevention, and arts and corrections. Creativity is constantly helping to foster positive change across society, across all cultures, languages, and abilities. What would happen if all industries truly recognise the power of art and artists to solve problems, build empathy, and tell stories that benefit all to hear?
How might we build a public arts culture in Wellington that is both valued and accessible?
How might we embed artists as collaborators across Wellington's business, health, education, and civic sectors, utilising their unique abilities and creativity to positively impact wider society in our city?
Thank you very much. If we can get those up on the screen, that'd be great. Thank you. If we can get those up on the screen, that would be really great. So we're talking here about economic equality. How do we sustain artists without creating cultural gatekeeping? Access for all. Can everyone, regardless of income, ability, language, or culture, participate meaningfully? It's like Joe said. Culturally safe workspaces. What does inclusion look like beyond access? Intersectionality. What are we missing when the arts is separated from other sectors? Let's hear your ideas. Okay, is somebody like to offer a response? Someone's hand up here. Good.
Yeah, thank you. These are great questions. Just James's question, embedding artists, I think is a fantastic suggestion. And we are the capital. We are the creative capital, but we're also the capital of Aotearoa. And there are countries all over the world where they've had artist placement programs, where artists have been embedded in different parts of the civil service, in different sorts of industry roles. And Richard Taylor's right. Of course, we're not going to bring 5,000 corporates to Wellington. But we, as the capital, have an enormous potential in terms of hosting artists within existing services and industries. Artists shake people up. That's what we need. The creativity comes through those interfaces that they provide. And if we can develop some sort of an artist placement program, we can really put Te Whanganui-a-Tara on the map, where it should be, where it is.
Kia ora. So, finding places and spaces for practitioners to be embedded in community. Sir.
I got hooked up on the health idea. And my suggestion, which we elaborated on in our little group here, is that if the notices coming out from the hospital, for instance, were presented in a more attractive way that people actually paid more attention to, they might read them. If they're in an environment in the hospital where they feel more relaxed, they might give the clinician better information, all of which will save clinician time and save treatment, which will save money. And the other point was if we can get more art into health promotion, maybe we'll capture rangatahi with issues that can be dealt with before they become far, far more expensive later.
Excellent. So giving art a real role in key elements of society such as health. Last one.
We've just been over in London, went to the British Museum to see the Magna Carta, but also on display were the Beatles' handwritten lyrics and letters from John Lennon. There's no equivalent in New Zealand. The first song that was ever written and recorded in New Zealand was in Wellington on the Tanza label. Most people aren't aware of this. It was recorded in Wakefield Street, virtually where the Reading Centre is now. The singer was Pixie Williams and the song was called Blue Smoke. Now, I'm interested in music, so I talk about New Zealand music all the time. But most people are completely unaware of this. What we really need is a museum which incorporates our art, our music, and becomes a hub for administration or becomes a hub for artists to get together and to collaborate. We are completely missing so much of the culture that we already have, and a lot of New Zealanders are not even aware of.
Okay, kia ora. A space and a place. Ngā mihi team, if you had your group had ideas, please do remember to share them after this part of the event. I'll now turn to the panel, who's going to expertly weave responses into both sets of provocations. Who'd like to go first?
Test one. I just want to answer the first question I received in terms of the balancing between administration and art. And being a one-man band it's pretty much like they're both intertwined, take up a lot of energy. Art takes up a tremendous amount of energy. My father would say art takes up as much as a huge explosion of raw energy, and at the end of it you hardly have enough to do anything else, but you have to push on. Though I find by doing it, it's very difficult, or I could miss a lot of things, like applying for applications, having the resources. Because one thing too, got to thank, is the people who do the administration, who find the funding that help you get there in the first place. There was a program that was actually the last government put out a little while ago. It's called Creative in Schools. So I did a lot of my current work with a lot of schools, and it'll supply a funding of money to help the school with the administration work to get you in there to run a program of education and art with the kids. I've done it twice. One at St. Francis and the other one in a little school in Hokianga with a group of 40 students in the far, far north. It was an amazing experience. But by having that support of an entity, could be a school, could be another group, to help set up all that foundational work and have the funding to support them too, because the people who set that up are incredibly important. It can't happen without them. And then the artists can focus purely on the creative content and doing the mahi, for the community and reasons for that only make sense to that area in terms of what it relates to. You're met with much more success and benefit towards the community. And so, to have that support for the administration, I had to kind of learn it on the fly on my own because I didn't even know what to do, And so over time, however, even through that experience of muscling it through, applications, all that sort of stuff is never my strongest point. Visual and creative people. Need to work with people that have that other mindset to be able to make sense of things and communicate to the other side who you've never met your ideas and what they're investing in, because it can be very difficult to do that. So it's having something like Creative in Schools or something else to arise those of that success, because I was very successful and it really benefited the communities I worked for, especially the schools that I came to go and visit and had the privilege to work with. Hi, kia ora.
Kia ora, Ariki. Carla?
Yeah, I'll just comment briefly, and I think it ties in quite a few things here. I do think that Wellington would really benefit from an arts hub that was really rich in te ao Māori, that was a space that actually Wellingtonians could go. I think it's lacking at the moment. But there is still a lot of really great stuff happening in the city at the moment, and it is being clouded by a few things. So we really need a really strong voice in the city that is a big arts advocate, like a champion of the arts. Like, I think that's what we need at the moment, just to bring creativity to the top again, because it is here.
When we were in the middle of COVID, I used to talk with Tanya, Dave, and our team about my excitement for the fact that we were going to be born into a new renaissance, right? I ignorantly, totally believed that, like the Dark Ages, due to the suppression of people's lives and creativity, that surely what would blossom out of the back end of COVID is a new epoch of the human race, right? It's never happened, something like COVID has never happened to the modern world, and there surely we would muster our collective inspiration and birth a new renaissance into the world. As we've seen, that hasn't been the case. In fact, it's the opposite, and we're relegating ourselves as the human race back to the Dark Ages, it appears. So what is the renaissance that you guys provocated, and what could that be for Wellington? And, you know, is it timely that our city chooses to double down on our inclusiveness, our embracing of those that deserve support, that deserve a home in the city, to Joe's point, that is cost effective. I have a friend, Mark Tanner, he was going to be here tonight. Some of you may know him, he's a Wellingtonian. He runs a company called China Skinny. He's up in Shanghai at the moment. But to the gentleman's point about music, he's adamant that to birth the new renaissance is through live music. He's trying to campaign the council at the moment. Yeah, exactly. He believes the live music scene that was so vibrant in the city of Wellington for so long, and could be again. It's not that it's not here, please, but attracts, it's the nucleus to the ecosystem of creativity, and I tend to agree with him, right? Because a youth culture gathers around the brightest lights of entertainment and arts and creativity. And that could be a great way to be. When I was thinking about tonight, I was chatting to my friend and colleague, Rick Athorn, and he mentioned, I've never been there myself, sadly, but he mentioned to me the Japanese art islands. Some of you may have been, some of you may know of it. But as he describes it, it's just a collection of relatively modest islands with a bunch of dwellings on it, that someone decided, unless I'm mistaken, I believe it's the family that is now supporting World of Wearable Arts. I might be wrong there. But they designated these islands as an international art experience open to the world. And to Carla's point, through investment, because I wrote here, it's all good and well to have creative innovators and inventors, but of course, if we don't have the investors and then the platform on which to play out our stories, it's very, very hard. And we've had some amazing supporters over the years, and it needs that combination of things are required if we are to see the inclusiveness and embracing of our arts community, and sharing it through the mechanisms of live music or something like the Art Islands out to the world.
Kia ora, Richard. I don't know about you, but yeah. I'm starting to get a bit goosebumps about this vision for Wellington that we're creating here. It's quite extraordinary when you map it out in your mind. You know, thanks, Rachel. You've got me in that space. I can almost feel and see the future as well as what we're experiencing today. Okay, we're moving to the last set of provocations. James is coming back, and he's going to be joined by Emily Damon King as a scholar and emerging curator from NYU, poking around the intersections of art and politics. Emily and James.
I've experienced firsthand how hard it can be to sustain a full-time creative career in Wellington. I want to live and work as an artist in this city because I believe in this place, but I do understand why talented young creative people feel they need to leave to Auckland or overseas to make it work. I want to stay. I want to thrive here.
And I've come home after working in international art spaces in New York and elsewhere, and I've seen how distinct Wellington is. We have something powerful here, something worth growing and something worth sharing. I want to be a part of telling Wellington's story on the world stage.
That includes building a city where young creatives, especially those who feel unseen, can grow, be supported, and contribute without needing to compromise who they are.
And when we don't just say we value the arts, but we measure it, we invest in it, and understand it as part of our cultural identity and our future as a global-facing city.
How might we build a future where local creatives can thrive, where young people see the arts as a real path, and where our creative identity reflects the full diversity of the city?
And how might we position the arts as Wellington's leading export, centred on our unique cultural narratives and creative energy?
Kia ora, team. Thank you. Okay, we're into creative futures, inclusion, our identity and its future, and global ambition. 5 minutes starts now. Does anybody have something they would like to share in this group? I can see a wonderful, beautiful hand down here. Carolyn Henwood.
I just want to say we need a commercial industry. We don't pull together to become an industry like beef and lamb and wine and all of those people. We could do that, pull the arts together, make a structure and make a business that then pulls in money and can market to Singapore and bring people in, just like we do with our farm industries. You know what I mean? So I'm talking about all of us together.
Yes.
We're little pottles of art around the place, but we need to be an industry, a real industry that's financial. So that's what, have I covered it there? Is that enough?
Thanks, Caroline.
That's what we all think. Go.
Yeah. Caroline, of course, closely associated for many years with Circuit Theatre, and Peter Biggs, who's here tonight, ran a workshop at Circuit Theatre exploring exactly that, and he presented the wine industry and the story of the wine industry, where it started, and it was when they stopped competing with each other and when they came together and formed this global export that they completely transformed that industry. It's a really interesting model to consider for the arts.
Thank you. For the two that stood up before, we hear you. We face the same problem in a digital infrastructure as well. And as artists and innovators, we see you guys in the same light. We sit on a world stage now, and the world is watching. They're watching what we do, especially in terms of smart cities and our innovation. How we can prepare our city, Wellington, for a Seven Islands event with our stories, so that we can bring back the learnings from other places to help build resilience within our communities after a massive earthquake, so that we can bring our economy back up as soon as we can. We hear you. There's a lot of interest from outside, and so that often takes us away from where we want to be. We want to be here in the city. We love our city. We grew up here, and we've seen it from years and years of development, and we want to continue seeing it thrive. And so we hear you, and I think if we find a common ground around the broader outcomes, where we think from our heart for humanity, we build this triadic relationship between academia, industry, and community, and we help build equity for everyone through kindness. So that's part of the work that we're also doing, but we hear you too, because we resonate completely. So the struggles that you're going through, we're going through too.
Okay, kia ora. Yeah, great. Okay, one last quick one, if there is a hand. Here we go.
I just wanted to bounce off actually something that Richard said earlier about I was just thinking about, he said about doubling down on inclusivity. And I was just thinking about it, and I was like, the one thing that I think Wellington, for me, that has been so welcoming as a city is that it is a colourful, inclusive place. And I was actually just having a conversation with another lady here earlier about how, even compared to like over in Sydney, like in the inner circle, it is very, beautiful out place, it's great. And then in the outer area, it isn't so much. But I think in Wellington, it's such an inclusive, colourful place. And I think in a world that is going a bit crazy, I see some crazy stuff, a lot of people doubling down on not being inclusive and being very closed off and now going back to the old ways like the Dark Ages. I think that if we put Wellington forward on the world stage as an artful place, a diverse place, inclusive place, we would get people, artists from all over the world being like, this could be a safe haven for us. And I think I know people that are over in New York at the moment, and there is so much dullness from a lot of people, artists over there. And I know if they saw that Wellington was a place that was inclusive and exciting for them, they would come here and they would do that. So that was just my little idea.
Cool. It's there's some wonderful people who live in Whiteman's Valley, just down the road here. They set up the Edmund Hillary Fellowship, and they created a visa, an impact visa, to bring entrepreneurs to Aotearoa New Zealand. Maybe there is an answer in that. We're going to leave the final word to the panel. Well, actually, we're going to let them speak now, and then somebody else is going to speak to you.
Quite briefly, I think where it was mentioned sort of affordability, and it's sort of how do we make the arts or arts practitioners more affluent to be here. And I think it feeds into, Carolyn, what you were saying about actually making a real industry with the arts, being more inclusive. And I think if we actually really value and put in, how much does the arts, much do we value it? And I think you were just commenting about something before, is that how much value do we put on the arts in our city, and how can we make you as arts practitioners really affluent so you can afford to live in the city? And it's to flip it on its head. We don't have to be struggling artists.
You want it?
It's a lot. That's okay. There's a lot to take in and process for the whole night. My mind. I've heard a lot of things. Like I said, I've lived in Wellington for over a decade, and probably practiced on and off here now for more than that. And I think all the things we've discussed today, we've all experienced, we're all sharing that now. This is the creative hub of Aotearoa. My journey began here. I think everyone in this room journey began here in Te Whanganui Ātara. This place is something very special. I call it the bowl of creativity. In our harbour, Te Whanganui Ātara, and our guardians there, our people here, our history here. And from its original foundings in the 1840s, we welcomed our guests here. They came on the tall ships and embraced them, and then founded our city here. And so I think, there's plenty to go on that side of things. And I'm thinking of all the questions that have been asked today. One stood out particularly, I think, as well, was the one earlier about health, and support, especially in the mental health phase, but also those in need. I could tell you this straight away. If it wasn't for art, my father would have joined the gangs. Because in his time, in the 60s and 70s, even before that, made to feel like something else, not worth anything, until arts came into the scene, and arts saved him. Art, and its core is the centre of humanity. Where there is art, where there is creativity, uplifts a community and a neighbourhood. Art studios in areas uplift the neighbourhood. The sense of community and gathering uplifts the neighbourhood, and I find as the antidotes to a crisis that we're facing in mental health, because people forget their creative side, people forget the colour and the love and joy they have to share one another, and I think that's what leads to darkness. But with those support avenues that we all discussed today, so I guess I think my answer is just a bit of an umbrella response to everything that we've talked about today. Is that, creativity is the answer to all the things that face us, and especially in that realm of people in the support networks. It greatly benefits those individuals, and also some schools I worked with had youth that, I'll tell you this is, the teachers and all that would say that, those are the naughty ones, or those ones, they're mischief. And they come into the classroom, they end up being the best students because they have this outlet that they can connect with. Someone that doesn't judge them, someone that doesn't look down on them. It's something different for them to do, something for them to come and embrace, and something to be proud of when they walk out their door. Whether they follow that path or not, it's basically that opportunity or that chance for them to make that decision and contribute through creativity, which is the heart of everything. And I think everything discussed here today, from affordability to industry, to all the support that we've put together, and like you said, bringing it all together under one industry or a business sense, but combining it in some way, because we all have all the pieces of the puzzle here in our city, and I believe it's come close to being all put together before. And now I feel now's more the time than ever to bring all that back together and really tell the world, remind them why te whanganui atara is the centre of creativity. So that's all I have. It's a little bit of a speech, but that's my whakaaro of what I've seen today. Kia ora.
Kia
ora. Thank you. Karen, that was fabulous. I couldn't help but think, where's the Fonterra or Zespri of the arts world, right? And maybe that's something that we should be all getting advice on. There are a lot of very, very accomplished business leaders in New Zealand that could arguably lead the way. Maybe like something that's been instrumental for Tanya and I is the day that we formed a board. Like we couldn't even wrap our heads around a board. I still arguably don't know entirely how to utilise a board, as my dear friend Phil, who's in the room, can contest to. But it has been an imperative for Tanya and I being able to navigate the corporate realities of New Zealand governmental expectation on our company. And maybe a board needs to be formed in our country that's driven by commercially astute people, not by passionate, enthusiastic artists, by so many societies are driven, that can curate and navigate us through the choppy waters. I also, to your comments, thank you for picking up on that. We genuinely could become a beacon to the world by becoming a foil to the Northern Hemisphere, right? I strongly believe that. I don't know what the mechanism of communication is. I suggested earlier if we could have the equivalent to a carnival in our city a few times a year, where the platform is given to the voices of our creatives to speak to others around the world. We could arguably attract some of the greatest artists living today because they see that this is the place to be, connecting into a community of like-minded people. So that's a lovely and warm thought. Something we were discussing while you guys were chatting, we need to change the narrative in New Zealand. Like we're an echo chamber in this room, we're evangelically preaching into the same choir, right? I think we all are probably very similar, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting here. But, both of our children have gone to a local school, to secondary education, and you sit at the end of every prize giving and you see the kids go up on stage And there's law, and there's law, and there's law, and there's accounting, law, commerce, law, accounting, law, commerce, art. Oh shit, there's an artist, and I'm madly clapping away. And then we might get an engineer, and I'm, yes, engineering. And then someone's going to the music school. But it's 1 in 10, 1 in 15, maybe 1 in the class, right? And maybe what we need is from a kindy up, we need to start changing that narrative by promoting the fact that the child in the family that is into the arts is considered the greatest success in the family, because maybe that then starts to shift the psyche that we suffer. Also, too many give too much for too little in the New Zealand arts scene. We all go to the theatre, we all go and listen to live music, we all go to contemporary dance, we love the dance that was shared with us earlier. But so much of that has been given to us by passionate enthusiasts that are doing it for free or below living wage, because we, not us, arguably, because we're the devoted few, but maybe we as a population yet still don't see the privilege of being touched by that art. We're willing to pay $80 at a stretch to go and see a piece of contemporary dance, but are we willing to pay $120? Probably not, right? There's a tipping point where if we were willing as a nation to go over that tipping point, no one has to give so much by so many for so little. And that's I don't have a solution for that, but that's a very strong thought. We want to consume it, but we're not willing to pay fully for it, and that's something that needs to change. And I will share for a moment with you how I've started to speak to our team at the workshop, because I've chosen over the years not to get sappy and not to be too reflective and not try and use poetic allegory to try and inspire our team. But coming out of COVID, I realised that I did need to change our narrative, right? And Tanya and I operate by 4 very simple tenets, and I started to realise I needed to share those tenets, and I'll share them tonight because I think they, to some degree, could be the cornerstone of what I think is what drives us, what inspires us. And so, very simply, love of oneself, love of what you do, love of who you do it with, and love of who you do it for. As I will describe, that doesn't matter whether you're a father of a family, a CEO of a company, or the president of a country, right? If you don't love yourself, how can you expect others to love you in turn? If you don't love what you do, no one else is going to love it, no one's going to buy it, no one's going to... the love of who you do it with, your companions, your colleagues, your family, your loved ones, your collaborators, and love of who you do it for. You have to be passionate about your audience, your customer, the collective that comes around you. And those 4 things, something else I've touched on, which is, right, who are the true immortals in the world? They're obviously the educators, the teachers of the world. Some people put up their hands as art teachers. They are the true immortals because they are passing on their knowledge and experience to the next generation, and they will be relevant beyond the generation that they pass away in, right? So how does our city find creative immortality, right? So the next generation believes and embraces and carries forward the aspirations, inspiration, and determination of those that are living today. And the things that are made today continue to leave road markers of relevance out into our future. And to me, that would be a lofty aspiration to share.
Kia ora, Richard. a city of creative immortality. Okay, we've come to the end of this part of the evening. We're going to have some words from Cam Harland, who's currently CEO of New Zealand On Air. He's made a career of working in and around creativity-driven organisations, including Weta Workshop, Park Road Post, Saatchi and Saatchi, TVNZ and the Film Commission, and Downstage as well. And Cam is representing Vision for Wellington. But don't forget, there's a glass of wine if you'd like it in the foyer afterwards, and the opportunity to get some of those ideas onto some of those boards. Ngā mihi.
Give me something to say.
Sorry, mate.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Incredibly difficult session to follow, if I'm honest. But I really just wanted to make a few acknowledgements. So this is probably going to be the least creative part of the night. I apologise for that. I just want to acknowledge you all. What I love about Wellington is we are small, but we punch above our weight. And I would say that this is a powerhouse of creative arts practitioners sitting in front of me tonight. So thank you all for coming. I want to acknowledge New Zealander of the Year, Professor Bev Lawton, is in the house. But really my main job is just to acknowledge a number of the people that have made this evening as great as it has been so far. Firstly, the wonderful panel, Ariki, Carla, and my friend Richard. Thank you so much for making your time available to us all. Little known fact, I have stayed in Carla's house. She has a wonderful home up in Airbnb in Taranaki. So if you're looking for a wonderful place to stay up in Taranaki, Carla has got an amazing place. So I stayed there before I knew Carla in the way that we know each other now. So I haven't stayed in Richard's house, but I have had a number of occasions to connect with him. And I walked through the airport on Monday and engaged with Ariki's piece of art. So I feel connected to you all. And thank you so much for coming. I also want to acknowledge our provocateurs, Judah, Amelia, Katrina, James and Emily, for bringing the average age of the room down significantly. So thank you for joining us tonight. I also want to acknowledge this wonderful venue, and we've talked a little bit tonight about having a creative arts space in Wellington, and I fully agree with that idea, but I don't think we should underestimate the creative arts spaces we already have in the city, and we were really purposeful about selecting this space for this evening. It is a wonderful creative space, and I want to acknowledge my friend Paiki, Tommy and his crew, Tanya, who gave us a wonderful welcome, and everyone else that was involved in making this venue sing for us. So thank you, mate. Massive thanks also, of course, to the School of Dance students for their performance at the start. We really wanted to make this feel like an event, and I really think that they started off the night wonderfully. So thanks to them. I just really want to acknowledge MC and moderator extraordinaire Simon. Simon was suggested to me as someone that might be able to kind of MC the event, and I sort of naively kind of met this wonderful, wonderful human being and said, could you help? And I really haven't done anything else since then. So I really, really do want to acknowledge him. He's pulled pretty much almost all of this together himself. So Neil, thank you for lending Simon to us. We appreciate that. He's been amazing, so thank you, mate. Also just want to acknowledge that, as I said, there's a powerhouse of group of people in the auditorium this evening. There hopefully is a whole bunch of other people watching on the live stream on Stuff this evening, so I want to acknowledge you all and thank Stuff for being here and making that happen. I also want to acknowledge some Vision for Wellington colleagues that have been instrumental in pulling this evening together and are here. Kerry, where are you, Kerry V? Thank you. Luke, Phil, Bigsy's here, not in a suit. Dame Kerry just had to leave. Phil, Mike's been responsible for sorting out the bar. And Neil. So thank you to our Vision for Wellington crew I just want to sort of note that Vision for Wellington is a collective advocating for a thriving, innovative and bold future for Wellington. We're seeking to engage Wellingtonians in discussions about Wellington, right? And this is one of a number of panels. Hopefully a number of you went to the first one. There will be a bunch coming. We're learning as we go. As you would have seen this evening, it's a far more interactive session that we've had planned out for this one. That is because of the wonderful audience that we have here. We knew that that would work for you. It may not work for all. But the key thing here is that the discussions are going to inform a crowdsourced vision document for Wellington. This is about Wellingtonians shaping Wellington. So please tell your friends, get them to sign up. We're looking to build something really special. And with that in mind, I just wanted to acknowledge there are two panels coming up in May. We have 15th of May, 4 TED Talks about what makes Wellington distinctive. 15th of May at the Boat Shed. Mark Tanner, who Richard just referenced before, will be one of the speakers at that event. So please put that in your diaries. And we also have startups and innovation, and how do we double our startups in 5 years, which will be May the 29th at the Whaea. So put those two in your diary. As Simon has said though, please note the night has not finished. The plan now is to go and get some refreshments if you so wish. Yes, so please go out into the foyer space. There are refreshments, but the idea there is that we've got a whole bunch of these whiteboards out there as well, with provocations on them and some wonderful facilitators to get the conversations sparking. So please, we want you to leave here feeling like you've managed to get your ideas across. You may not have got them across in the room tonight. Make the most of the whiteboard spaces out in the foyer. And enjoy yourselves. Before you go, please also come and have a look at the work of art that Gareth and Lisa have pulled together over the last sort of hour and a half. And when I think about what Richard said before about that, that need for creativity to balance itself with entrepreneurial people or people with business smarts, these two people are from PwC, oh my God. PwC. So, you know, I don't think that you would expect that people that work for an organisation like PwC would create something quite as remarkable as they have, but they have, and I really, really want to acknowledge Gareth and Lisa. Aren't they amazing?
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah. So look, please, I thought it was quite funny that Simon started the evening saying, please go and draw on the whiteboards. Good luck with that. But please go and have a look at the whiteboards as you leave. Take your time, enjoy the rest of the evening. I think we're here till 9. And as I say, ultimately, what we're looking at doing is pulling together all of the inputs from these panels into a vision for Wellington. Gareth and Lisa and PwC are going to be involved in doing that. Gareth has done a similar thing for the first panel that we had. He's going to be at all of the others. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes of it. So look, thank you all. Please stick around. Make sure you don't leave here without your ideas being captured by us. And thanks again once more. Cheers.